Hello and welcome to Movies That Move Me. My name is Elijah Winfrey. I'm your host, and we are continuing our dialogue for folks who have been following along with this series about the movies that made me want to become a filmmaker. Today is going to be a little bit of a different movie. We're going to talk about a kids movie and a little bit about my feelings on kids movies in general. The movie that I'm going to talk about today is Prince of Egypt. Now, this movie came out back in 1998. And check out the cast that they had involved in Prince of Egypt for a second. They had Val Kilmer. They had Ralph Fiennes. I hope I said that last name correctly. They also had Michelle Pfeiffer, Sandra Bullock, Jeff Goldblum, Danny Glover, Patrick Stewart, Helen Mirren, Steve Martin, and Martin Short. It was a gigantic movie for the time period. And during the production of it, they actually contributed to the success of another film at DreamWorks Pictures. For folks who don't know this story, I'll kind of summarize it just briefly. Basically, during the production of Prince of Egypt, if there was an animator working on Prince of Egypt that wasn't quite cutting it or wasn't doing what they were, quote unquote, supposed to do, right? Then what would end up happening is they would get kicked off of Prince of Egypt and put on the movie Shrek. So they would say, essentially, go down the hallway and go do that other movie. And so I found that to be kind of funny because obviously Shrek turned out to be a massive success, and Prince of Egypt, for all things considered, turned out to be very successful as well. Now, for folks who don't really follow Prince of Egypt, you've never seen it before, it's the story of Moses. So if you are a Christian or grew up in a Christian household like I did, you know the story of Moses most likely, and how he freed his people. This is that story. And what I find great about this and what I take my inspiration from is how they handled this subject matter. I love how they handled it because they didn't shy away from what it says from the source material happened back then, okay? And this is something that I wish more kids movies would do, all right? Give us the story, how it actually happened. And if it's a fictional story, don't just assume that it's always got to be a joke every 30 seconds for a kid to like it. You know, kids can handle more serious subject matters, I think. Okay, I think. And I think it also depends on the kid too and the maturity level. But I find sometimes it seems like movies are almost talking down to kids these days instead of actually giving them something that is thought-provoking and might actually cause a conversation to happen with their parents on the ride home. And so I love the fact that Prince of Egypt didn't do that. They said, okay, we're going to give you the story as it is. We're going to hope that you're seeing this movie with your parent and that your parent will be able to help you with any questions that might arise from you watching our movie. I wish more kids' movies took that approach. Maybe they will in the future. Maybe they won't. I kind of feel like they probably won't because a lot of times nowadays, you see kids actually just go to the theaters by themselves and they're not even going with their parents anymore. Whereas whenever I was growing up, like going to the movies was like a family thing, like everybody went. But to me, I love the fact that they said these kids can handle this serious subject matter because chances are their parent is with them. Let's tell a story. Let's not worry about making it, quote unquote, kid-friendly, because Prince of Egypt really is not kid-friendly if you watch it. But it was designed to reach out to children. It's also a faith-based movie, and I don't really talk about this a lot, but I did grow up in a Christian household. My father is a pastor. That doesn't define me, but those are things that I, grew up with. And every once in a while, I like to put on a faith-based film and check it out and see what they're doing. And one of my biggest beefs with faith-based films is the fact that they have a tendency to sanitize things. Here's what I mean by that. I'll give you a real-life example that isn't a movie, but I think you'll get what I'm saying. So, before I got my job in radio, and before I kind of got, for lack of a better term, my things together, if you will, I was on food stamps and cash assistance. And I had to go to a meeting about my assistance. And this meeting was like 45 minutes away from my house. Well, at the time, the car that my wife and I had was not very good. And so about halfway to this mandatory meeting that I had to go to, otherwise I wouldn't have money for food, the tire blows. And we're sitting on the side of the road, and I'm calling the agency, and I'm saying, listen, I will not be able to make this meeting. Please don't cut my services, okay? Now, if you have that story that I just told you, and you give that to a secular director, someone who's not a Christian, they're going to tell you that story with the amount of intensity that you would expect that story to have, because this is a character who is about to have their livelihood essentially taken away from them. They're not going to be able to eat. They're going to be a little upset about that. And chances are when the tire blows, they're not going to be like, oh, jeepers. They're probably going to say a curse word. And so they're going to give it to you as it is, okay? Realistically, okay? They're going to give it to you realistically. You give that same scenario that I just gave you to a faith-based filmmaker, and a lot of times what ends up happening, not all the time, but a lot of times, what ends up happening is you end up having a situation where the tire blows, but yet 3 minutes later, after praying really hard and hearing a Christian song on the radio, all of a sudden there's a tire that rolls out of the field and puts itself on the car, and the car starts to go down the road, and thank the Lord, we're gonna make it. I don't know why they do that, but that tends to happen with faith-based films. And it's like they have to make it so unbelievable because they think by making it unbelievable, they might actually convince people to buy in or believe in their faith. And to me, I've never been that way. Like what convinces me to believe in something is having it show meaning in my life. Me looking at whatever it is and it really touching me on a personal level. And it can't do that if it's so unbelievable that I would never expect it to actually happen. I hope that makes sense. But for me, I just wish that faith-based filmmakers, when they go out to make these movies, that they would do it like Prince of Egypt did, where they assume, kids are going to understand what's going on. If they don't, they can ask their parent. And then on top of that, we're going to give it to you like it actually happened. We're not going to sugarcoat it or try to lighten it up to try to reach everybody. Instead, we're going to let the story reach whoever the story touches on a personal level. To me, I feel like that would be far more effective. But again, I don't make faith-based movies, and I think most people know that if you see any of my work. But if I ever did, I would be looking at it saying, let's tell the actual story and let the story speak for itself. We don't need to pretty it up. Let the story speak for itself. And I don't know that that'll ever happen with some of these bigger faith-based films because a lot of them are mega church funded. And like I said, they just want to reach as many people as they can. They don't really care if they have a real experience or not. They just want to get eyeballs on it. And to me, I feel like that's a disadvantage. And I kind of went left field with this because we're supposed to be talking about Prince of Egypt. But the inspiration that I take from this, to wrap this one up, is quite simple, actually. It's if I'm going to make a kids movie, which I've never done one before. I've thought about doing some. I've been asked to do some. But if I was ever to do a kids movie, I would do a kids movie where I am tackling a serious subject matter, that I expect the parents to be able to help the kids understand whatever it is that I'm trying to portray through the story. And if I'm telling a historical story, I would tell it as it actually is. Or if I'm handling a serious situation, I would tell it how it actually is, not what I think the audience can handle. So that's what I got for you for this first one here. After having so many other movies kind of in the bag, I realized, I better do a new episode. So here you go, Prince of Egypt. Have you seen it? What did you think about it if you watched Prince of Egypt? And do you get where I'm coming from with some of these things that I'm talking about here? Let me know. As always, I greatly appreciate you. I appreciate you checking out my videos. There's a lot of things that vie for folks' attention. So when you give me yours, it really matters to me. So thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. If you're watching on TikTok, do the TikTok thing. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.